Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Preacher Boys podcast. My name is Eric Skwarczynski. I am a former fundamentalist who is now shedding light on the dark side of the church, from the pulpits to the pews. It's March 1st, 2026, and I want to walk you through some of the most disturbing headlines connected to Baptist churches and institutions in the month of February. As always, this episode has two purposes. First, I want to catch you up on these major stories that you might have missed. And second, I hope the sheer volume of these stories leads to a bigger conversation. It's time we reject the simplified bad apple narrative and confront systems that normalize and protect blatant abuse. Let's dive in. A new book hit shelves on February 2nd, 2026, titled Battered But Not Beaten: Confronting Hidden Abuse Within the Home. The book description declares it's time to protect the vulnerable and restore righteousness in the home and the church. Sounds great, right? Yeah, but there's one big problem: the author. This book is written by Pastor Greg Neal. So I'm in the middle of editing this video. I originally had a different photo here that I pulled from Greg's website, and I posted a screenshot of this section of the video before the edit to kind of show the work in progress, let people know I'm excited for this dropping on Sunday. And the next day, Tracy Burns Photography had filed a DMCA claim on the post, which is just reporting copyright infringement, and they got it removed from Instagram, so I had to swap for this different, more flattering still. So shout out to Tracy Burns Photography. I really appreciate you copyright claiming the video. And just to cross all my T's and dot all my I's, everything that you're going to see here is transformative content with commentary. It perfectly falls under fair use. And so if they try to strike anything else, or if Greg tries to strike anything else, I'm going to dispute that. And I'm going to push back on that on the YouTube platform, because I'm well within my rights to share what I'm sharing. It's all public information, etc. So that's what that is. But again, to cross my T's and dot my I's, I did have someone reach out, listener to the show, named Crystal Rigby, who gave me permission to use this old photo that is from her camera that she has the rights to, and she's given me permission to use it, of Greg here. So yeah, so if I need to, I can re-upload this entire segment. I'm going to keep putting it out there. I can re-upload it with this image. It still communicates how creepy Greg Neal is, but to be fair, it's hard to find a picture or video still of Greg where he doesn't look creepy. Greg Neal looks like such a sexual freak that when you look at his face, you almost audibly hear the Law and Order sound effect every time you see him. You're like, oh, Greg Neal. Oh, Greg Neal. Oh, there he is again. It's really incredible. That's that. Just want to give you guys a little editor's note there. That's why this segment has been changed a little bit. And look, I kind of joke with all these disclaimers and legal lingo and allegedly and in my opinion, but it wouldn't be the first time that Greg Neal threatens a lawsuit to somebody. If you guys remember Stacy Shiflett, who is a IFB pastor who's talked a lot about, sexual abuse in IFB churches and has, talked badly about a lot of predatory men in that world. If you go to Greg Neal's Facebook page, like, he's actively threatening to sue Stacy Shiflett as well. So, he loves to threaten legal action. Again, if you're going to be a sexual perverted freak who allegedly, in my opinion, preys on vulnerable people within your ministry, then you should stand on that. Just a thought there, but let's go ahead and get into the rest of the episode. In case you don't know who Greg Neal is, here's a little excerpt from a 2019 news article. Investigators told News4Jax that video released by the Clay County Sheriff's Office in 2011 shows Greg Neal, a pastor at Berean Baptist Church, handling a camera used to record women changing in his church. According to an arrest report, Neal was accused of hiding the camcorder in his office in Fleming Island in the spring of 2011 and videotaping while two women changed clothes.
Back in 2011, an assistant state attorney said this about Pastor Greg Neal. The evidence of his crimes in 2011 is overwhelming. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations had expired. 8 years later, and Pastor Greg Neal now works at Emmanuel Baptist in Duval County.
Oh, and this is also the same Greg Neal who hired Cameron Giovanelli, while Giovanelli was already under investigation by Baltimore police for sexually abusing Sarah Jackson at Calvary Baptist Church.
Greetings from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm Pastor Greg Neal. I'm here with Brother Cameron Giovanelli, and I'm pleased to come to you today to make the announcement of the founding of the North Florida Baptist College.
Oh, and this is also the same Greg Neal who's the primary supporting church for Galatians 6:1 Ministries run by David Hiles, who's been accused of rape of teen girls by multiple victims, was caught having multiple alleged affairs, and who was investigated for abuse of his child.
He and his girlfriend, Brenda Stevens, moved to Bolingbrook, Illinois with her 2 children by her first marriage. It wasn't long before her youngest son, 17-month-old Brent Stevens, came to the attention of abuse investigators. In 1985, they found him with a broken leg plus 8 or 9 bones in various stages of healing. Paul Cialino was a homicide investigator for the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. He and his team fought, unsuccessfully, to keep Brent away from David and Brenda.
I wasn't concerned this child was going to be abused again. I was concerned this kid was going to wind up dead. That was my concern.
His concern was justified. A few months later, Brent Stevens was found dead in his crib. Due to bureaucratic bungling, an inconclusive autopsy was done at a hospital instead of the morgue. But at the inquest, David Hiles invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Brenda, the mother of the dead child, was a no-show. As for the status of the investigation,
this case is an open case still today, and nothing's been done.
can anything be done with this?
Absolutely. It's a murder case. I would even go further and say that if I could get David and Brenda in a court of law, they'd both get convicted of murder, without a doubt. I have a dead child with a history of abuse, and I had 2 people who were the only people access to that child that night.
So with all of these stories behind it, do you really think Greg Neal should be writing a book about protecting the vulnerable and restoring righteousness in the home and the church? And in the next story, on Saturday, February 7th, 2026, a Baptist pastor and the former mayor of Fritch, Texas, named William Robbins, was arrested for charges relating to child sexual abuse material. His charges were the solicitation of possession with intent to promote child pornography. ABC 7 News reported that on May 8, 2025, Robbins commanded or attempted to induce a girl under the age of 17 to take naked photos or videos of herself and keep them on her phone. Robbins' attorney waived his right to pretrial arraignment and entered a plea of not guilty. ABC 7 also reported that Robbins was the senior pastor at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church from May 2024 to June 2025, so he was actively pastoring when this took place. The church issued the following statement to the reporter covering the story. Billy Robbins became the pastor of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in May 2024. He worked in that capacity until May 2025, when he went on personal leave for personal reasons. He then resigned June 22, 2025 for personal reasons. He has had no affiliations with PVBC since that time. And in the next story, Cedric Montez Sharp has been the pastor of Bright Star Missionary Baptist Church in Texarkana, Arkansas for just over a year. He was arrested February 11, 2026 on 5 counts of rape, and if convicted, he faces 10 to 40 years or life in prison on each count. And in North Carolina, a pastor was dismissed for, quote, serious allegations of a sexual nature. Marty Payton is the former senior pastor of Charity Baptist Church in Kannapolis, North Carolina. The Charlotte Observer reported on February 12, 2026, that the allegations against Payton stemmed from the time before he was their pastors and, quote, did not include any other individuals in our congregation, end quote. Their statement continued, charity leaders took immediate action to address the matter, ensure the safety of the congregation, and provide care for all involved. Marty Payton is no longer on staff at Charity, and we grieve with all those impacted by sexual sin and its effects. Our faith in Jesus Christ is unwavering. He offers hope and healing to us all. In another story, a pastor hired his sex offender son to work at church and school. In 2016, Caleb Crawford was indicted on charges of indecency with a child involving sexual conduct involving a 12-year-old girl. He's required to register as a sex offender for life and is listed as a moderate risk level, meaning a moderate risk of reoffending. His father, Pastor Eric Crawford, hired him as an independent contractor to work at Heritage Baptist Church and Heritage Christian Academy, a private Christian school that offers classes to students from K-4 through 12th grade. He was also the music leader for the church and did maintenance around the properties. Parents from the school discovered that Caleb was on the sex offender registry and many began withdrawing their kids from the school and demanding accountability.
Ryan Gunderson and Danny Jo Gunderson say they discovered Caleb's rap sheet online. They say they're upset with the pastor's decision.
He's supposed to be in a position where he is taking care of the church members and the school members and all these kids in the school, and he is putting them all in harm's way, or at least potential.
CBS News reported on this, giving a statement from Crawford's father. He said, "In this instance involving my son, the legal process had concluded several years ago. My intent was to allow his gifts to serve the ministry while ensuring that he held no role of responsibility or authority over minors entrusted to our care." CBS continues to report that Crawford said he reversed that decision after concerns were raised among parents of students at the church's affiliated school and daycare, which, quote, created unnecessary distraction within our ministry. Since the church's announcement, Caleb Crawford was arrested in Fort Worth on an outstanding warrant for failure to comply with sex offender registration requirements. On February 19, 2026, the church issued a statement announcing that Pastor Eric Crawford would be stepping down for the time being. And law enforcement in Davies, Kentucky were dispatched at approximately 9:54 a.m. on Thursday, February 20th, 2026, to investigate a reported shooting. Sheriff Brad Youngman said that upon arrival, deputies and firefighters found a deceased male in the yard of a residence. That man was identified as David Rogers, a former worship pastor at Pleasant Grove Baptist Church in Owensboro, Kentucky. Rogers, 40, had been charged with third-degree rape, second-degree sodomy involving a position of authority, first-degree sexual abuse, procuring or promoting the use of a minor by electronic means, and possession of matter portraying a sexual performance by a minor under the age of 12. He abused his victim for 4 to 5 years. Rogers was arrested on February 16th, and Paxton Media reports that, quote, Rogers' arrest citation says detectives interviewed Rogers and that in the interview, Rogers confessed to the various offenses. The next day, he posted a $75,000 full cash bond, and his arraignment had been scheduled for March 18th. The Owensboro Times reports that Davies County jailer Art Maglinger confirmed Rogers was placed on suicide watch during his incarceration. When asked whether inmates on suicide watch are typically eligible to post bond, Maglinger said eligibility for release is governed by constitutional protections. Every inmate has a constitutional right to bail except in cases involving capital offenses, Maglinger said. The Davies district judge who set Rogers' bond also addressed concerns, saying in part that he was not informed of any suicide risk. I was not informed of any suicide risk at the time bond was determined, he said. If such information had been formally presented through pretrial services, it would have been considered as part of the overall assessment. Our next story involves two predators who were leaders within the church. DeMarcus Smith was serving as a pastor at Oak Hill Missionary Baptist Church around 2015 to 2016 when federal prosecutors say he coerced a teenage boy to send him sexually explicit images. He pled guilty to the possession and receiving of child sexual abuse material and was sentenced to roughly 7 years, or about 85 months, in federal prison. Smith was released in 2023, and what do you know, he went straight back into ministry. This time he was teaching at Jordan River Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Around the same period, a teenage boy in that same congregation crossed paths with another church leader, businessman and elder pastor Martinez Tyler. The boy's mother says her son liked graphic design and started helping Tyler at his companies, Memphis Obituary Company and Tyler's Graphics and Printing, doing print jobs in small orders that made him feel useful and trusted. This was framed as mentorship and opportunity, the kind of things churches often celebrate from the platform. Everything shifted when the boy's mom went through his phone. She says she opened it and her heart shattered when she found nude photos and explicit sexual conversations tied to DeMarcus Smith, and she went straight to the police. Only then did she learn that the man messaging her son was already a registered sex offender who had previously gone to prison for exploiting a child. Federal authorities brought new charges against Smith, this time tied to this boy. In May 2025, Smith pled guilty to the new sex offenses and was sentenced to 30 years in prison, a sentence the boy's mother says still doesn't feel like enough time in the world for what he did. So by that point, one pastor from Jordan River Missionary Baptist Church was officially a twice-convicted sex offender with a decades-long sentence. But the story didn't end with Smith. On February 10, 2026, a Shelby County grand jury also indicted Martinez Tyler, the business owner who had been working with the young boy, on Tennessee state charges of human trafficking and aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor. The same boy at the center of Smith's case is identified as the victim in Tyler's case, making Tyler the second church leader from the same congregation accused of sexually exploiting him. Tyler was taken into custody with bail set at $200,000 and is now facing serious state charges tied to what allegedly happened in the context of his business and church roles. In my next headline, a Christian school teacher was charged for sexually assaulting a teen girl. Back in March 2023, 46-year-old Jonathan Sowers was arrested on 2 felony charges, 1 count of a school employee sex act and 1 count of a school employee sexual contact with a student under 19. He's now been charged and is facing trial at the end of March 2026. The alleged abuse took place while Sowers was a soccer coach and a Bible and science teacher at Faith Academy in Mobile, Alabama. According to Alabama Fox 10, deputies said the 16-year-old alleged victim told her parents she was headed to Walmart to buy school supplies. She hadn't returned in an hour and a half, so they went out, found her car, but did not find her daughter in the car, said Lieutenant Mark Bailey with the MCSO. They went inside the Walmart and could not locate their daughter, so they became very concerned. Allegedly, Sowers had picked her up in his vehicle and drove her to a different parking lot where he had sex with her. The victim told investigators that this had been going on for months. Investigators told Alabama Fox 10 that they have surveillance video of the teen getting into Sowers' car before leaving the Walmart. When I was diving into this particular story involving Jonathan Sowers, I came across a Reddit post from last year that said, "To anyone looking for private schools for the children, avoid Faith Academy. I may be preaching to the choir here since they already don't have an amazing reputation, but my family has had to deal with their lack of empathy and just overall lack of care for their students. Students are nothing but dollar signs to these insensitive, falsely religious, pedophile hiring idiots. Thankfully, my situation has nothing to do with the latter, but it's no secret." I was wondering what they were referring to, and upon further digging, I found out that this is not the first teacher at Faith Academy to have sexually abused a student. Way back in 2015, 33-year-old Christina Busby was arrested on 2 counts of being a school employee and engaging in a sexual act with a student under 19 years old. She sent inappropriate texts and a provocative video, invited the student to her home, and engaged in sexual activity. Her victim was a 17-year-old boy. NBC 15 reported that she pleaded guilty in February 2017 to a consolidated misdemeanor assault charge, was sentenced to 6 months in jail, served at Metro Jail, had 2 years probation, and was required to relinquish her teaching certificate. And my last headline takes us to Tennessee. Abortion has been illegal in Tennessee since 2022. Those who perform them are charged with a Class C felony, punishable by 3 to 15 years in prison and fines of up to $10,000. Those who drive someone to another state to have an abortion can spend up to a year in prison. There are no exceptions in state law for rape, incest, or fatal fetal anomalies, such as when a fetus's heart grows outside of the body. But for some conservatives, these restrictions aren't enough. Vivian Jones from the Nashville Tennessean reports, an amendment drafted for House Bill 570 and Senate Bill 738 would allow prosecutors to charge women who obtain abortions with fetal homicide, punishable by life imprisonment, life without parole, and, in some cases, the death penalty. The bill specifically removes legal protections for pregnant women currently in statute and classifies harm done to an unborn child as equal to assault on a person, quote, born alive. As of the time I'm recording this, February 25th, 2025, the bill did not get enough support to move forward in the House, but I still want to talk about it, specifically because of one of its outspoken endorsers, Clint Presley. Clint Presley is the current president of the Southern Baptist Convention, the largest body of Southern Baptists with approximately 12.7 million members as of 2024. He took to Twitter to say, "I am glad to support HB 570 and SB 738, 2 bills in the Tennessee legislature that would protect every preborn child in Tennessee from abortion by providing preborn children with equal protection of the law. By protecting the lives of preborn children with the same laws that protect people who are born, we're simply loving our neighbors in the womb as ourselves. Tennessee now has the opportunity to set an example of how states can protect the sanctity of human life from conception to natural death. I am urging the Tennessee legislature to move these bills forward this legislative session. It's both pro-life and consistent." That's right, the president of the Southern Baptist Convention celebrated a bill which would allow women to get the death penalty for having an abortion as pro-life. Krista Brown, an author and advocate against clergy abuse, responded in part by saying, While they may call such abortion bans pro-life, it's worth noting that women who live in states with such draconian bans are nearly twice as likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, or soon after giving birth as compared to women living in other states, and miscarriages can become high-risk events both medically and legally. According to the Center for Disease Control, Tennessee already has the highest maternal mortality rate in the nation. Now, Tennessee lawmakers want to stir still more death into the mix by having the state itself deal out the death penalty to women who have abortions. And Southern Baptist leaders are working to put the power and influence of their 12.7 million member faith group behind this. Of course, these are the same people who for decades have turned a blind eye to pastors who rape kids and have repeatedly rejected institutional accountability and common sense safeguarding measures. But I digress. I recommend reading Krista's full article on this matter. It is well worth your time. That's all the stories I'm going to be covering on this episode, but of course, the work isn't over. I'm currently working on several very important interviews and preparing a few larger stories of institutional abuse within religious circles, and I hope you'll stay tuned for when those air. And remember, if you want to support the show even further, head over to patreon.com/preacherboys. You can help make this show possible, and you get early access to certain episodes, behind-the-scenes looks at different content, and even some exclusive items that are only available to Patreon supporters. Just head over to patreon.com/preacherboys, and I'll see you over there. You've been listening to the Preacher Boys podcast, hosted by Eric Skwarczynski. The intro music, Bible Belt, was performed by Lou Ridley.
I said, come on, we are gathered here.